When people talk about wheat harvest, you may first think of a large farm in Texas. A harvester moves across the field. A truck takes the grain away, and it feels like the job is finished. But in some villages in northern China, the most tense part often begins after the wheat is cut. I grew up seeing wheat harvest in a village in northern China. When I was little, I did not understand why the adults were first busy in the courtyard, not in the field. Later, I understood the harvest does not depend only on the machine. It may also depend on an ordinary family courtyard, an old three-wheel vehicle, a small village shop, and even a cloud slowly moving in from the edge of the sky. The day before harvest, the first busy place in our family was not the field. It was the courtyard. In a large farm system, grain may leave the field and quickly enter storage. But in some villages in northern China, wheat often comes back first to a family courtyard. This courtyard is not only a place to rest. People may keep tools there. They may park a small vehicle there. They may dry clothes there. The older people may sit near the door in the sun. During wheat harvest, the courtyard becomes a place for drying grain. After wheat comes back from the field, it cannot just stay in one pile. It needs to be spread out. It needs sunlight. It needs to be turned over. So before the wheat comes home, the courtyard has to be ready. That evening, my family started clearing the courtyard. My mother moved bags and small things under the roof. My father pushed out the three-wheel vehicle and checked whether it could carry grain. I used a broom to sweep away small bits of dirt and grass. This was not about making the courtyard look neat. It was because the wheat would be spread on the ground the next day. If the space was ready, the family would be less rushed. That evening, the sky was a little gray. It was not the kind of dark cloud that means rain is coming right away. But it was not a sky that made people feel safe either. My father swept for a while, then looked up at the sky. It was a small action. But during harvest season, looking at the sky is not just a habit. It is a judgment. After wheat becomes ripe, the time window is short. If people harvest too early, the grain may not be dry enough. If they wait too long, wind or rain may cause trouble. And after the wheat is brought home, it still needs to dry. If rain comes while the wheat is spread in the courtyard, the whole family has to move fast. They need to gather it, cover it, and change the plan. This is the real pressure of harvest. It is not a movie scene. No one needs to shout. No one needs to cry. It is just an ordinary family in a courtyard, clearing space, watching the sky, and waiting for tomorrow's machine. The next morning, the village woke up early. I went with my family to look at the field. The wheat was already yellow, and the wind moved through it. It looked beautiful, but for the people who planted it, this was not just a beautiful view. It was a sign that the most important days of the season had arrived. When I was young, I did not understand why older farmers had to look at the wheat again and again. They had seen it yesterday. Why did they need to see it today? Later, I understood. They were not checking whether the wheat was still there. They were checking how dry the grain was. They were checking whether the soil was still wet. They were watching the sky. They were thinking about whether the machine could enter the field smoothly. If you only think about machine efficiency, these small judgments may look unnecessary. For someone who has worked on this crop for a whole season, they matter. The dryness of the grain, the wetness of the soil, and the color of the sky can change the whole day. Later in the morning, the sound of the harvester came from outside the village. Once people heard that sound, the rhythm of the village changed. Some people stood near the road. Some rode small three-wheel vehicles toward the field. Some asked questions at the village shop. Which field is first? Which family is next? Is the machine coming this way? I went to the small shop to buy water, and I heard a few words there too, where a woman at the shop said the machine had just finished the field on the east side, and it might come toward our side soon. Someone beside her said the clouds in the west looked thick, so people should watch the weather in the afternoon. The village shop is not only a place to buy water, salt, or small things. In many villages, it is also an information point. People hear where the machine is. They hear whose field has a narrow road. They hear whether the weather may change. They hear small news about neighbors. A small shop can be connected to the plan of the whole day. When the harvester enters the wheat field, the machine is the most visible part. It is loud. There is dust. The wheat stalks go into the machine and the grain comes out. If you only film this part, wheat harvest may look fast and modern and simple. But the machine only cuts the wheat. To bring the wheat into family life, many other things still have to happen. After the grain comes out, it needs to be loaded and taken home. That is when the old three-wheel vehicle becomes important. In many Chinese villages, this kind of vehicle is very common. It is not only transportation. It connects the home, the field, the market, the village shop, the clinic, and the village road. My father drove back and forth between the field and the courtyard several times. Each time the wheat came back, the people in the courtyard had to move quickly. They poured the grain out. They spread it across the ground. It could not be too thick. It could not stay in one small area. If the sun was good, they wanted it to dry evenly. If the sky looked uncertain, they also had to think about how to gather and cover it quickly. Here, the sun is not just part of a beautiful rural picture. It decides whether the wheat can dry well. It also decides whether the family can feel a little more relaxed in the afternoon. When wheat enters the courtyard, the harvest is still not finished. It still needs to dry. It needs to be turned over. People still need to watch the weather. Only when it is dry enough can it be stored safely. The harvester solves one problem, cutting the wheat from the field. But it does not solve another problem, how to make the grain safe at home. At noon, lunch is usually simple. Maybe a bowl of noodles. Maybe steamed bread with some vegetables. People do not spend much time on lunch because their mind is still in the courtyard. After a few bites, someone goes out to look at the sky. After a few more bites, someone checks the wheat again. For someone used to buying bread from a supermarket, this may feel different. But in northern villages, wheat is not just a product on a shelf. It can become flour. Flour can become noodles, steamed bread, or dumplings on the family table. For many older people, having grain at home gives them a steady feeling. This is not only about money. It is about knowing that the family table has something to rely on. Daily life can continue. Of course, places are different. Some areas have larger fields and a more organized farming process. Some families no longer keep much grain at home. Some villages have more young people coming back to help. Some depend more on older people and neighbors. One village cannot speak for all rural China, but in many northern villages, you can see one common thing. Wheat harvest is not completed by one machine alone. It is completed by the machine, the family space, the weather, village information, and the dinner table together. In the afternoon, the cloud moved lower. People in the courtyard worked faster. Someone turned the wheat again. Someone spread the thick parts thinner. Someone found a plastic cover and placed it near the door. They did not need to use it yet, but it had to be ready. This is the real drama of wheat harvest. It is not a fight. It is not a sad story. It is a courtyard full of wheat, and the sky slowly becoming darker. If the rain comes later, the day is easier. If the rain comes earlier, everyone has to change the plan immediately. At this moment, a few words from neighbors are not just casual talk. A neighbor passing by said the machine had moved to the next field. The woman at the shop reminded people that the clouds in the west were getting thicker. She said not to spread the wheat too far if the sky kept changing. These words are not written in any notice, but they help a family decide what to do next. Later, I understood that a lot of tension in rural life does not come from big events. It comes from small timing problems. When will the machine arrive? How long will the sun last? Is the courtyard large enough? Are there enough hands at home? Can a neighbor remind you at the right time? Each question looks small, but on harvest day, they all matter. By evening, the rain still had not fallen. The wind moved through the courtyard. The surface of the wheat had become much drier. The family finally relaxed a little. This kind of relief is quiet. Someone put a tool against the wall. Someone drank a few mouthfuls of water. Someone sat near the door and dressed it. The courtyard was still the same courtyard. But it was not the same as in the morning. In the morning, it was an ordinary family space. At noon, it was a place for drying wheat. In the afternoon, it was where the whole family raced against the weather. At night, it slowly became part of daily life again. From outside, wheat harvest may look like one machine entering a field, but inside an ordinary family, the machine is only the beginning. The wheat is loaded near the field, taken along the village road, brought back to the courtyard, and spread under the sun. Along the way, there is news from the village shop, a reminder from a neighbor, and a quick bowl of noodles at the table. At the end, the wheat is put into bags and placed by the wall. The courtyard is swept clean again. That night, my family may still eat a very simple meal. No one says anything big, but you can feel that the house becomes more relaxed because the wheat of this season has finally come home. And when you look at wheat harvest in a northern Chinese village again, you may not only see golden fields and a harvester. You may see how an ordinary rural family connects land, whether tools, courtyard space, neighbors, and food step by step, into daily life.